let's go with that. So officially, whatever it is, a network scanner. It was originally written up by in the 1990s. There was a magazine called Frack, which I think it was actually it was a thing. But now it's matured. It's actually a lot more than it used to be, and we're actually going to at least touch on the new functionality, which I think offers some of the more interesting things you can do. So, okay, so what can it do? Obviously, hey, you have a part of your network, say your home network, which is a good example. What machines are in your home network? Nmap can help you answer that question. And then once you know what machines are on your home network, what services might some of the machines on your network actually be make available? Again, that's what the port scanner is. OS and service discovery, basically they have the way Nmap can fingerprint the way different operating systems interact with over the network. Offers clues that Nmap's kind of built to figure out, okay, you're running Linux, and not only are you running Linux, you're probably your kernels like this, between this one and this one. So it's really good at that. Service discovery, because just because the port's open and it's useful, you might want to know what version of what service is being ran, and we'll show you that. And kind of the more advanced functionality, which we're going to show you how to use. Maybe after the core presentation, I might show you how you can kind of implement your own. So let's go with that. So I don't want to get in trouble. I would say that don't scan networks if they don't have permission. But you actually, if you are looking for a machine to scan, scanme.nmap.org explicitly says you can go ahead and scan them. So if you went in doubt, you have a question.
If you're currently on the 801 Labs network, you can also scan the Vulnhub machines.
Yeah. So we do have some machines here. I would actually say, if you go home tonight or another time, it's probably a good idea to run Nmap on your home network, see what's there. You might be surprised by something. Hopefully not too surprised. But yes. So how do you get it? If you're running Linux, most everyone if you're running Kali, which is the hacker-centric OS, it's already installed. Don't worry about that. If you're running most normal Linux distros, you can probably do an apt-get install or yum install. It's pretty much a default package. Even if it's not a security system, it'll be there. If you're running Mac or you're running Windows, you can go and download the normal installers, which you're probably used to using. And if you're hardcore like that, the source code is public and you can download and compile. So a lot of options. If you're new to Nmap and you don't know what all the different options and choices are, Zenmap, which is a graphic user interface, might actually be a good choice.
I love Zenmap.
Zenmap, besides being a little bit easier to use, the visualization can actually be pretty useful.
And it keeps track of everything,
yes,
which is really nice.
Yeah. If you run one scan and you run another scan, it kind of builds this aggregate understanding. And so the thing is, I would say that if you want to get started, Zenmap's not bad. You will probably at some point want to at least learn how to do the command line, because situations you may be in where Zenmap's really not, say you're terminaled into a remote machine, Zenmap's probably not going to get you what you need. So let's talk about host discovery. And you see this incomplete subdivision, right? Because what happens is just on the internet, this neighborhood you're looking at, you can have actual address, but it doesn't mean there's actually a house there, right? When they build out these suburbs, to tell the city, hey, there's this is this address, but there's nothing there. So so we're going to actually show you some commands where you can hey, what machines live in this network? And that's one of the things it does. Then we'll talk about ports. So, Nmap, most people, if someone asks what Nmap is, you're going to hear some people say it's a port scanner. Well, what's a port, right? So the idea of a port, the best way I want to describe it here and why I got this picture is you can have a building, which may be like a machine on the internet, think of them the same way, that can have a lot of doors, a lot of places that you could potentially go into. And so what happens is, while the host or the machine is the building, every door you can knock on is be something like a port. That's a good way to think of this, right? Now there are, if you know the binary math, 2 to the 16 ports possible, which means something like over 65,000 ports on a machine.
535.
Yeah. For someone that does the binary. Someone knew that. So the thing about it is just the idea that every machine has the possibility of having that many ports that are basically doors you can knock on, if in a metaphor. Now, generally speaking, Nmap kind of thinks of doors or ports as being open and closed. Open means that if you knock on it, there's a service listening and it's going to respond. And it's going to be like, hey, I'm a web server, or I'm an SSH server, or I'm some other type of service, right? And then, if no one responds, it's basically to Nmap, it's closed. The port's closed. Now, over network and internet, because really Nmap's kind of internet oriented, there are basically 2 protocols. I assume that a lot of people are generally familiar with TCP and UDP. TCP has the guaranteed connection. The key piece with Nmap, kind of the piece that's important, is the 3-way handshake. Connecting to a TCP port is more definite than connecting to a UDP port. And it actually is a lot faster than when you port scan a UDP, and I'll show you what the timing looks like on this. The scan will take you a lot longer. And you've seen those. So host discovery. So what this command, this is an example, and I'm hoping everyone can see this even in the back, right?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. So what this does is, the interesting command I put in here, or a switch, is I did Nmap, then I said SN-SN. Now -SN says, I don't want you to port scan. All I want to do is try to reach out and see which machines exist. And basically the way Nmap works is they're either going to try to ping it, they're going to try to look at web like HTTP or HTTPS. That's usually how Nmap tries to reach out and see if there's a machine there. Okay, so if you're not trying to port scan, you just want to know what machines exist on your network, then that -SN switch is what you want to do in that command. Does that make sense? Now, let's actually get to port scanning, right? So now, say for example, in my last scan, I found that there was a machine, the 33, right? So I decided this time I'm going to scan 33. Now you're going to see that the interesting thing I did here is I did -P-. Now why I did that is normally Nmap only scans the top 1,000 most popular port. Like if you don't specify, it's only going to do the top 1,000 most popular, not 1 through 1,000, but just the most popular services it's going to look for. When you do a -P-, you're saying do all 65,000 plus ports, right? So if you want to be more rigorous and really see if you can find something that might not be as common, then a -P- helps you get that. Now notice it comes along here, it says, it sees the number of services. It's, in this case, it's really not going to show you something that's closed because that's not really that interesting. And then it'll tell you what service it should be. Now, when it does just without service discovery, we're going to go into that. It just says, okay, if 22 is open, we assume that's SSH, right? Now, you could do some weird things and like put something on a port it doesn't belong, but that's an example. Now, you can scan with Nmap and get more useful information, and that's this next one. So with the dash P dash, now I added the SV for version, right? For like service versions. And now you notice that I'm getting this additional information. Basically, it's grabbing the service banner and it's saying, hey, not only is port 22 open and it's SSH, but they're running OpenSSH version 7.4. Now, going back to what I think was mentioned earlier, which is that there are some vulnerable machines in our lab in the space. If you pick up a version, then it might be useful to say, okay, if I'm trying to hack it, now you could like look up and see if there's a vulnerability for that version of the service, right? So port scanning, where you grab the version, can actually give you a little bit more insight. And if you're trying to compromise a machine, it could give you information that would be useful. Now, something I want to show you here, because I'm actually going to show you UDP soon here, is that this port scan of this machine took me 33 seconds. Okay, it didn't do the UDP thing. Okay, just TCP. All you see here is TCP. But now I ran a UDP scan. Okay, and a UDP scan, I wanted versions, but the thing is, that one took like 10 minutes plus. Okay, so the thing about UDP is, you can find something interesting with UDP, but you're going to need to be patient because UDP takes a lot longer to find, to run a scan. So that's the thing I'd say about UDP is I would do your TCP scan first. See what you see what's useful, and then if you want to go for more, run UDP and maybe you'll order some DoorDash. You do something because it's going to take you a while. Now, one thing we mentioned earlier was OS detection. So how you trigger OS detection is the capital dash or dash capital O. What that does is actually it comes through, it does a port scan. You still see the normal port scan. But it's actually going to say, okay, I look at how this, when I interacted with this version, and it says, it looks like you're running Linux, and probably your kernel's in this space. Like, it probably don't tell you exactly which kernel. It'll say probably between here and here. Now, an interesting thing about that is, in order to run the OS detection, you have to run a privileged. You have to sudo or be root to run that. Just because it's going to break some rules, or at least bend them, as far as how services network are supposed to deal with other services in order to achieve this. In fact, I think even for UDP scanning, you also have to sudo. Because otherwise, the command the program won't be able to behave in a way to make this work. Okay, this is actually, what I just saw is probably the core stuff, what I just showed you. What I'd recommend to really get comfortable with Nmap is go home, log in, run Nmap on your home network. If you see a machine that you aren't familiar with, maybe port scan it. Dig in. Hopefully you don't find anything that's scary, but even if you aren't being hostile.
I have never not found something that I had no clue what it was.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I have no idea, and I spend like 45 minutes tracking it down, and eventually it's like, oh, it's not as bad as I was their first thought.
It's usually the vacuum or the
But
toaster.
never have I
You
not.
forgot you plugged in.
So if you go to your network and you port scan it, you will have a fun time trying to figure something out. I promise you.
Yeah. Now everyone's got Internet of Things now, right? All the like your refrigerator is now connected to the internet, and the thing is very interesting is okay, your refrigerator has an IP. Chances are your refrigerator is also running a web server. Yes, it's a thing.
Yep.
So the thing is, I'd say do some Nmap at home. What's up?
Quick fair warning, if you do Nmap at home, The only reason I knew that the Echo was the Echo was because there were 3 that have the same 2 ports. The 2 ports being both, if you Google it, it'll say it's a virus. Still. Yeah. IoT devices have the shadiest port numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they follow no rules. Yeah, the IoT stuff, there are no promises made, right? Yeah. Good point. Okay, so let's talk about the Nmap scripting engine. So what happened is when Nmap started out in the 90s, it did the stuff we just showed you, right? Port scanning, OS detection, host discovery stuff. Now, what happened is in middle of the aughts, they enhanced the functionality. They basically, once you port scan something, you might be interested in pulling some information, and maybe you can actually brute force a service and find out what the password is with Nmap scripts. Okay, you could actually, Nmap could be the only tool you need to do to hack somebody. It is a true story. But a lot of these Nmap scripting engines is where you find that type of functionality. We'll look at some of the scripts in that. So,
could you escalate from one of these IoT devices with using Nmap to get onto the router or something, or?
Well, I mean, they say, for example, say you got onto, say you're
on the refrigerator or something.
Yeah. It's possible.
There's WannaCry payloads
Yeah.
in Nmap.
Yeah, you could
Scripting
use
engine, so
the
there.
NSC to do it, but you
There's-
probably want to use a more sophisticated actual exploitation tool. Nothing against the NSC, it's just
Yeah.
something like Metasploitable would be better.
Okay.
It's once you get in, once you find out what's in there, and say once you get on a machine and privilege escalation, the whole there's some tools that make it better, but I mean you don't need to use them. Now there are right now, because as of yesterday, when I first did this class, and it's been a few years, there's about 500 scripts that were included with Nmap. Now we're sitting about 600, 599 as of yesterday. So, anyways, the scripts are written in Lua. So if any of you have ever modified your World of Warcraft or things like that, yep, this will not be unfamiliar area. When you're writing your scripts, they actually have a number of libraries, and I'll actually show you where these are, where the libraries exist. In fact, I'm going to show you my example, and then we'll look at this. But there are libraries, and instead of figuring things out for yourself, usually what you'll do is you'll just leverage, you'll pull in a bunch of, if you ever did programming, you're pulling in libraries so you don't have to write all the code yourself. Same thing. So let's show you, and I apologize because I think this may be one of the hardest things to read. I'll try to explain what's going on here. So this is an example of running Nmap with using a script. And basically I'm saying I'm Nmapping, sorry. In this case, I'm limiting it to 443. Because what I don't want to do is, in this case, I'm not really wanting to port scan. In this case, I just want to see the details of the SSL connection. So I limit it to 443, which is usually for SSL TLS. Then I say script, and then I do SSL star. Now if I do SSL star, all the scripts that start with SSL will be ran. So what happens is you're not limited to only running one script at a time. You could actually run several scripts at a time. And especially if you're looking, they're all in the same area. That's an example. And then I point at a machine. And I'll come back here and say, hey, I see there's a certificate, and look, Synology. So I probably pointed at my NAS. I did. Okay. And then then it comes, okay, RSA, your pretty standard, probably automatically generated private key. And then it comes in here and it says, okay, it's before, not before this and after that. I think you were asking, I don't know your name, ma'am, but anyways, if not valid after, if are expired, you get that warning thing, right? And then it goes through, and here's the part that I think you might be more interested in. How many of you have ever used SSLLabs.com to check like a website's thing, right? And just see how good the certificate is? You don't need to use SSL Labs to look at the configuration of someone's thing. All you need is Nmap and a network scripting engine. And what happens is he'll come and he'll tell you, what key exchange, what the key is, what type of block cipher and hashing. So, and it'll tell you, hey, this is really good. It's an A. So if you don't need to go to SSLLabs.com to get to check your TLS configuration. Now, let's see here. And I think the next one is about questions. Before we go to questions, I actually want to go back to. I want to actually look at Nmap. So let me make this bigger and see if I can. Can people read this, or do I need to juice this up?
We need a big
Can't read a thing.
Okay.
Control scrolling wheel should do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Control plus.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
the one.
There
Give
we
it
go.
More.
More big. Yes.
There we go.
Okay. So let's look at Nmap. Okay. So I have Nmap in here. I think I ran it earlier. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. So I am going to port scan the guest network here. Okay. All I'm looking for is what host exists on a local network. There we go. Now let's just say offhand, and the -24, if you're not familiar with it, is basically saying, in the IPv4 there's different sections. I'm saying I want to look at everything after the last dot. Just a way of kind of grabbing an area of the network and looking at it. But let's go here and let's say 219. And say I do the V, because I want to see if I can get, okay, someone's running OpenSSH on that machine, and I know that they're running version 8.7, patch 1. So, now say for example, I want to know what OS they're running.
We know it's Linux already, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, very likely. I mean, it would surprise me if it wasn't. Okay, we'll go there. What it's trying to do is trying to fingerprint. And it comes back and it's saying, really, I'm not sure. And usually what happens is, well, it can make some pretty educated guesses. Sometimes, it just doesn't, so it doesn't know what it is. And that's fine. It tried. Now let's look at the scripting engine, right? Am I okay with looking at 801labs.org? Okay.
It's cloud flared.
Okay, we'll see what they do here. So I'll do this here. Hey, I'm fine. Nmap, and now what I'm going to do is port 443 because I'm just wanting to see what their TLS looks like, and then I'm going to do say script SSL. And then I'm going to say 801labs.org. Now, what does it say here?
It was lowercase SSL, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do, let's host.
Failed to resolve, it said.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Okay. All right, won't worry about that. So let's go. Let's show you what the scripts look like. Okay, so they are found in user, share, Nmap. If you do the normal standard install scripts, and there's a whole bunch of them. Now some of these scripts, like things against like brute forcing MySQL servers. Brute forcing Telnet. Who's running Telnet now? I don't know, but hey,
here's an IP to scan.
Okay.
Do ns1.801labs.org.
NS1.
Yeah, this is a
for
new
it.
server that we just set up today.
Okay.
Actually, it was yesterday.
Yesterday.
That's okay.
And
There's
this
no
one-
firewall on it yet.
.801labs.org.
Okay, they're probably not running an SSL server, right? So let's look.
This one
See,
is not, no.
yeah. So let's see. Let's take a look at this machine. Okay. So say SV, and see what services are running on this.
Yep. There should be a port 53.
Okay, we'll see. Here's an important thing, and actually a good point. I'm glad we're kind of talking about this. Just because the service is running on the machine, if there's ever some type of network pieces in the middle, what happens is it may, even though if the service is open, if the machine is somewhere in the middle says, I'm not letting you talk on that port, you're kind of blind, right? So this one it sees is running SSH, SMTP, port 53, okay, a DNS. Now the thing is, when I ran this scan, I didn't look for anything beyond the normal. If I do the P-P, we'll see if there's anything that's kind of on a odd port. So
will class end when you start a UDP scan and see how long it takes?
oh no, I'm not doing UDP for a class. No.
This will take a minute itself.
Yeah, I mean this will take some time, but UDP, yeah, no, that's not a good one. But okay, there we go. So that looks like that is what's running on those machines. So now going to our library, right? There are some like if there's a bad thing that happens, like often SMB, because SMB is like notoriously vulnerable in many ugly ways. What happens is you can actually, people have written scripts and submitted them to Nmap where you can actually have it scanned for like a known thing. So you can scan it and say, hey, say there was an SMB service. You could do SMB star and it run all the things and it come back, and if it found something that was vulnerable, you could see it.
There's a bunch of DNS ones.
Yeah.
How did you get that list?
Okay, well, good question. How did I get this list? Let's see here, clear and PWD. So this directory, user share Nmap scripts, is where you'll see all the scripts that are included with Nmap. Now, if you ever want to write, in fact, let's look at one of these scripts. I want to look at one that's not super complicated because I don't want. In fact, I'll show you one of mine. CD. Okay, so a long time ago, I wrote an SSL expiration script, and what this did is my company I worked at had a ton of domain names, like over 1,000, and it's always embarrassing when your certificate expires. And so what we did is I created this text file with all the domain names. And then what I do is I can run this as a script, and all it will do is it'll go pull the certificate, find the expiration date, and print out for each website what the expiration date is.
Do DC801.org.
Yeah. Hey, let's do that. So we have a practical example. So Nmap, and we'll go port 443, and I'll do SSL star or
Within 30 to 90 days,
actually, sorry, script, and then say SSL. All right.
30 and 90 days.
What is it? Sorry. Let's see here. What is that? Okay, there we go.
I always had useful information.
So it's different.
Okay, let's do this here. 443 script SSL expiration,
It's kind of more useful for society.
and then do a DC801.
DC801.org.
So we're gonna find out when the certificate expired.
Won't be in the future.
Wow.
Okay.
I think your DNS is broken.
Yeah, something tells me
Did you
DNS.
ping the
Yeah,
Google?
yeah. So, let me show you what the script looks like. Okay. So just to kind of give you a feel.
Here, I'll give you an IP, so you don't need
Okay.
DNS.
Okay.
It's
That may not work.
oh, actually, that might not work. Well, just do it anyway. See,
Okay.
158.69.156.192. Something will come back.
Okay. Okay. Weird. Okay, I'm not going to
Debugging.
keep debugging during class, but I'll just show you here. So what does the script look like? First, you load up like various libraries, right? Like I mentioned, there are libraries to use, and then you say, hey, I just want to see the expiration of X thing, and it shows kind of an example of what it would look like. Now, for categories, the reason why this is important is that there are some scripts that will actually like knock over machines, knock over services. And then their services are pretty gentle, right? So you're saying like, hey, I'm a safe script. I'm not doing anything too real radical. Who wrote it? And then basically what the license is. So what I do is here is I look for, this was kind of a function that says, I'm looking for SSL ports or something that supports SSL. This is just a way to convert the number that they give me to something that's easier to read for humans. And then my function, all it does is it reaches out, it gets the cert, then what it does is it converts the expiration date to a readable thing, and then it basically sends that expiration date. That's all it ends up doing. And it would look like this. It would actually give you the timestamp of when the certificate expired. I hope that's not your computer, man.
It was.
Was he dead?
No, it's fine.
Okay. So here, what I don't want you to do is get buried in all the details, but I want you to get a feel for what you can use the service for. And I really highly recommend tonight you go home and you Nmap your home network. It'll be far more interesting than you probably expected it to be. And with that, we'll open this up particularly to questions. Any questions? Or we answered them during the class?
I have so many questions. Where to begin? So the question that I was asking was, you wrote that code to like packing. How is that information valuable?
Well, maybe, so for example, some things are red team or blue team, right? Red being offensive and some things being blue. I would actually say that this script is more like for the blue side of things. Say if you have a ton of websites and you've got certificates on them and maybe it's not automatically generating new certificates, you can run this script and you see any of the ones that have an expiration date before today. Now instead of going at all 1,000, you can just fix those ones. That one's not really offensive. Now, to something that is offensive. Okay, let's go there. Let's go to our script library again.
Maybe I don't understand.
Like, okay, one that what is offensive, right? Is, say for example, telnet brute. Telnet is before everyone started using SSH, is how you connected to a remote machine, to do things. Early 90s, okay? Don't do it now. Anyways, but if you see this, what happens is you can actually take a password file, like with a list of passwords, and just try every single one until it finds one that works, right? And so what happens is that's a way of like gaining initial access on a machine, right? And brute force that. It's not the most efficient, but I mean it can get the job done. Sometimes you don't need to be pretty. Sometimes it just has to work. In fact, if it just works, I don't care if it's pretty. But yeah, there are scripts in here that are like MS SQL brute forcing, MySQL brute forcing, that which are basically trying to get the credentials to get into a machine. So not all scripts are offensive. Some are, some scripts. Let's say, for example, let's go to the SMB stuff and the vulnerability. maybe you've got a bunch of machines. Maybe you walked in and you're the new guy and you've got a bunch of Windows machines. You run Nmap and if you see they're running SMB, you run these type of things, and now you can find out real quick what shape your systems are in. Does that answer your question?
No, it just gives me like 4 or 5 other ones.
Huh? Oh, we got no one else. Let's Brash. Yeah.
So you have shown us a sample script that you wrote, right?
Mhm.
Where do we go to learn more about writing our own scripts? Say I wanted to write a script to scan for, a specific service running a specific version, right?
What?
Is there documentation somewhere? Are there like things for me to know about?
Okay, nmap.org, and there is a book. There's a huge book. You can actually get in a hard copy. It is monster big and monster thick, but everything in that book is on the website.
Okay, cool.
So like that's the actual physical book, right?
Right.
But the thing is, I think in all the docs, in whatever language, like they have different things they talk about in the Nmap scripting engine. And so the thing is, all the documentation, all you would ever want to know and more, nmap.org.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Because I want to start writing a script and see. I've never done it before, and it seems really interesting. So.
Yeah. Other questions? Cool.
Yeah, so I had a question
Yeah.
about, it was him actually. You guys set up a new server the other day, and it had some SMTP open port.
Yeah.
Can you show like just running a SMTP script against that and then escalating?
So I mean.
So you're going different route.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in the scope of the class.
Yeah. But the thing is, I probably, I'm not going to do an offensive thing.
Check for an open relay.
Yeah.
So SMTP-open relay. See what that does.
Okay. So, yeah. Now, do you know what an open relay is?
No.
Okay. Well, normally, what happened is it used to be. This is kind of the issue is.
It used to be. I still see them all the time.
Well, okay.
Questions?
Let me address the first one. So the idea about this is SMTP, which is basically email, right? Simple Mail Transport Protocol. What happens is people used to, and they do, okay, they want to send a whole bunch of spam out. If they can find an email server, an SMTP server that will take people's submissions and from anyone, then it's an open relay. And the problem with that is basically you can become the source of a whole, like if you're running, it's your email server, people are sending out all their junk from you. People don't like junk, and they look, what mail server sent this? I'm going to block them. So the thing about it is by a non-open relay is one that actually either limited by IP or other credential. So before, it won't send anyone's email. You have to actually kind of prove yourself. That's the idea, right? So like say an open relay is an example. So let's go back to that machine. I think there was a machine that was doing that. Let's see.
It was NS1.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it was NS1. And as a tip, don't run an SMTP server. just use like Office 365 or Gmail or something.
Yeah, nobody really should be running their own email server today. But I mean, hey, interesting.
Thing, learn to do it, but there's a lot of hoops to making one work correctly and not be an open relay and actually be able to send and receive email like everywhere.
I would agree. Basically, please don't do that. I'm going to run the open relay, and then we can answer your question. So we see there's a port 25, which is SMTP. It says postfix, so we know that that's a pretty standard email server, right? So let's go there. So let's go Nmap, and we're going to just port 25 because we're looking at a particular service on a particular port, right? And so we go script and probably do SMTP. And they say open. I probably don't even need to finish it because it's probably the only one that starts with open, right? Then I would say NS1 801labs.org. Now I hope this actually comes with something interesting, but we'll see.
Yeah, they're like this. They should use it. Maybe they can.
Maybe.
Yeah.
This successfully.
It'll either say yes or no.
No, it just says.
Well, let's see what it comes up with.
It'll print that on the screen.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. So it does not seem to be running an open relay. So it tried and it could. Okay, there you go.
Chad's not in trouble.
So that's an example of that script. Like you verify it. Now you had a question.
This is actually me asking a question for someone else, but it's two questions. What is your favorite obscure feature of Nmap?
All right, for me, I'll go with it. There are some ways to scan that are not I didn't talk about tonight, just because they're really edge cases. There's one called an idle scan. And the idea behind an idle scan is, say there's a printer on your network. Now that printer collects dust. That's what it does, right? So what happens is you can create an Nmap scan and act. You can basically tell who your target that you're coming from that printer. And then what happens is then you can check the increment. And if you can do this, you can basically scan a machine, and it'll probably see that it was scanned, but it'll think the printer did the scan, not you. So that's kind of a cool trick. I don't, the number of times you can actually use that, it's microscopic, but it's interesting. Other question?
And the other question from Admiral is, what are your favorite places to find new scripts for Nmap?
Usually, okay, good question for Nmap. The library's got over approaching 600. This is the first place I look. Why write your own scripts? If you let's see here, more. First thing I will look, if I need something to do something, I'm going to look through here and see if I find something that does the job, right? And then, if it's not here, I'm probably stuck with writing it myself, to tell you the truth. But I think, because really most of these were not written by the people that run the project. They're written by someone else, and they make a merge request, say, hey, I got a cool thing, please add it to Nmap. So pretty much you go here. Most normal people would go to within the library. And these come when you do the apt-get install Nmap. All this will be included.